All right, on this episode, I'm going to show you how to dovetail the rear end on your Nissan Armada or Y62 Patrol. I've never seen it done before, so we're going to call it the hammer cut. But there it is. You get a lot more clearance out of the vehicle. It's a lot of fun to do, and it completely changes the look of your vehicle. I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So just a quick overview of what this looks like, the finished product here. I just wanted to show that before we get into the laying it out and the cutting. So this is live video of me trying to figure this out. I'm just exploring what the options are underneath this thing. I knew we could do it, but what it turns out to is the reflector line right there is a perfectly straight line to use. So I'm going to lay the tape about 1/8 of an inch above the reflector line here. And I literally just follow the line of the reflector straight across the entire bumper. So later on in this tape, you'll see how much meat we leave on the bumper. But basically, as we follow that line across to the right side above the trailer hitch, it leaves about 1/4 inch of the black plastic trim underneath the painted area there. And we'll get into that in a minute. From the side here, I did not want to cut the wheel wells at all, so I left the over fenders complete. And again, I'll show you in a little further detail down the line here as we cut underneath the rear wheel there and what the angle looks like. And actually, I round off part of it to make it look clean, even though nobody's ever going to see underneath there other than myself or a mechanic if I blow this thing up. So I'm just laying the line. I leave the tape straight. I use 2-inch tape, and that really helps kind of hold its own angle and line. It keeps it in a straight line. And you just take your time as you lay this out. And I'm just working through how I want to see this play out with the dovetail along the side of the car here. And just take your time laying it out, but I just have the line meet right at the corner of the bumper there. And then following that same line straight across the rest of the bumper, you'll see I lay the tape just above the center section painted part there. So you see the black trim that comes up and around, and the tape lays just across right at the top of that. So you're going to cut just right along the top of that colored part there. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it and make sure it looks good. I ran that straight across the other side. This gives you a little different angle of what it looks like. I'm laying tape along the straight part of the over fender on the bottom there. And then just going to lay my angle right to the corner where the fender, or I should say the bumper, where it bends underneath the vehicle, right at the over fender is where I line this up. And just lay down a straight line as straight as possible here. Really take your time, obviously, and make sure you like the way that you lay this out. It ended up being around a 40-degree angle, if I'm not mistaken. But you really just eyeball it. There's no exact science to this. Now I'm just laying a little curved line from one section to the other as it transitions behind the wheel well there. I'll show a picture or a video of that shortly. I just wanted to leave a little detail in there instead of cutting straight lines because it looks a little better if you do it that way. Then on this corner here, you're going to see I measure 1.5 inches in from each side. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it right now. And with the tape measure, I measure 1.5 inches in towards the reflector. And then I also measure 1.5 inches down from the corner. And I just soften up this cut here, the area. So it's not just a straight rough corner. I just lay a quick little circular line, kind of rounding off this edge here to soften it. and this will help when I add the automotive trim at the end. And again, I'll zoom in on it here for you. So I just soften the edge a little bit, and same with underneath here. I just 1.5 inches from the sides and cut it. So I used a few different techniques in cutting this. I wanted to try a few different things out. So on this side of the vehicle, right behind there is some air conditioning wires. So you do have to be careful when you're cutting this side of the vehicle. I used obviously just a cutting wheel here with my air compressor. The other option is to use a Dremel, which takes a little longer. It's just a more tedious process because the wheel's smaller. Or you can use a jigsaw, which I used on the other side of the vehicle. And that was probably the easiest one to use, to be honest. I just wanted to try a couple different things, but I ended up switching over to the jigsaw, as you can see here. And you can see that 1/8 of an inch that I left above the reflector. And then just cutting right along the line there. And you can see that whole trim and the lower colored section comes off. There are 2 brackets that you will come across here, 2 10mm bolts, and you just pop those off. And there you have one side of the dovetail. So you'll see a little piece of foam hanging down there. That's the 5-mile-an-hour bumper. I'll show you how to cut that in a moment. I also removed these lower brackets. Those are the 2 that were holding the bottom of the bumper on. And that's the 5-mile-an-hour foam bumper. You've got your air conditioning lines and some power here. So I just took a regular old razor blade and I slowly trimmed off the excess plastic right here. And then I cut into the 5-mile-an-hour bumper foam about 1/2 inch above what would be the bumper line if you're looking straight behind the car. So I did leave most of the foam bumper on there. I didn't feel like painting it. It just doesn't look right. So I cut approximately 1.5 inches off the bottom of the foam there. So here we switch over to the other side. I did a relief cut with the circular saw, and then I switched over to the jigsaw. And this was just really easy. Just taking my time, slowly cutting each piece. Remember, you can always cut more. So the automotive trim that we use will clean up any minor errors that you have in your, if your hands waver or anything like that. I've sped this up a little bit, but this is just a regular old jigsaw. I have a laser light on mine, so it helps guide me, but any old school jigsaw will work. And again, I just sped this up a little bit, but really take your time cutting this. And that second piece on this side comes right off. And then trim up that 5-mile-an-hour bumper underneath there, and you will be good to go. This is the trim that I used from Amazon. It is a metal-based product, so you just basically clip it on. It just slides right over, really. And you just press fit it on. And here's the final product. As you can see, there's a lot more clearance, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. Something different. Obviously not for the faint of heart, but give it a shot. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. There's been a few trucks that have done this since I first did it in 2022. I've got a lot of new changes coming up for the truck and a lot of new parts coming in, so stay tuned.